All right. Forward to today. I'm going to put up the screensaver to begin for um, all the folks coming in on YouTube later and for us too. Those of you who have been here, you might recognize this. It's on this picture. I'm taking a picture of the front of a microwave where I have this posted in the kitchen of Loose Leaf Hill. And the picture in the center is a Suzuki Roshi, my first meditation teacher, and a sort of rare, uh, attitude. And he's holding up a cookie. You can't see it, but he's holding up a cookie. And so that's the center of it. And uh, and we're going to talk about what else is written there. He didn't say it, but another Zen master uh, said he thought that I think, therefore I am was back asswards. He said, I am, therefore I think. So we're going to investigate this today. So, yeah, so I think we can take that off now. There we go. You know, as we end the year, and really we've been going more than 4 years together as a community. Some of you people from the very first session, uh, as I was and Jill was, the very first session over 4 years ago. You know that everybody's welcome to join our community. And some people might be joining for the first time today. It's a community without walls. All you need to do is get the link somehow and you're in. So everybody's welcome to join our community. And it's natural, as those of you who've been here for a while know, it's natural for people to come and go. Sometimes you can't make it on a Sunday. Uh, Something comes up, or you got other things to do. So it's natural for people to come and go. But a couple of big questions to start off our talk is, first one is, why do folks stay? Why have some of you been here for 4 years? Uh, why do people stay with this? A good question. And at least my answer for this, everybody would have their own answer, especially if you've had 4 years to ask yourself this question. Why do I show up on Sundays? Why do I show up for the Saturday retreat? Why do I stay with this? My answer for me, and maybe it's an answer for you too, I don't know. But the answer for me is something deep within me wants to wake up. That's my answer. Now, I didn't start that way. I just started over 50 years ago and teaching in high school. When I first started, I was so stressed out that I just needed some stress relief. And I couldn't smoke weed or drink. All my students were doing that. Quite obvious when they came into homeroom out of the parking lot. So I felt I had to do something about the stress. So it was suffering really that brought me to it. It's sort of what brings everybody to it. And we'll end with a great quote from Jesus of Nazareth about suffering. But so I think as I've gone on to be sitting every day for most over 50 years, there's something deep within me that wants to wake up. It was the Neville brothers, Aaron Neville and his brothers down in New Orleans, singing, "Everybody better wake up. Superpowers better wake up." Well, it starts on the ground level. Starts not with capital letters, but with a kind of lower case revolution of you wake up, I wake up, people in the community wake up. And then the question would be, wake up to what? Wake up to what? No, I'm going to work just with three words. Sometimes, I think for good reason that sort of New Year's resolutions have fallen out of favor. And now people have a word for the year, which, may be better or worse. I don't know. But it's become a thing. My word for 2025 is whatever. And and I think that it probably makes some sense because who hasn't made a New Year's revolution that's fallen by the wayside? You feel like, oh, failed again. Well, I don't do New Year's resolutions. I haven't for a long time. I do New Year's aspirations. Totally different thing. It's the difference between well, and an aspiration is like a star in the sky, like the North Star. You can use it for guidance. You never get there. You don't. You never get to the North Star, but it helps you, especially when it's dark and you lose your way. And so it's something to come back to. And so, yeah, I'll have a New Year's aspiration. I'll put it out on Monday, and it's good to aspire. It's an basic aspiration is to wake up. But wake up to what? So I'm going to do three words today. I'm feeling rich today. So we won't just do one word, we'll do three words today. And the first word to wake up to is now, N-O-W. And I want to open this word up a little bit. I want to go back to the Middle Ages and actually to the medieval Christians in the Middle Ages. They had some insights into now. And of course, now we're talking about time, we think, but actually they had two words for now. In Latin, of course, nunc fluens and nunc stans. And nunc fluens meant the passing present moment. Just, there's a present moment and then it goes on and then something else comes in, et cetera, et cetera. That was what they called the passing present. The fluens means in Latin means fluid or flowing like a river. It's like a river of time is flowing. Okay. And nunc stans meant the unmoving present. Stands means like stand, the standing present, sometimes it's called. And that's actually eternity. So there's this image of the passing present going through eternity. And if you have a meditation practice, you're practicing to become the unmoving present. Schrodinger, Erwin Schrodinger, hard to say his name a bit. He was sort of called the father of quantum physics. He has this one sentence that really puts a point to it. He said, the present is the only thing that has no end. The present is the only thing that has no end. And he was talking about the unmoving presence. He was talking about the standing present, nunc stans, because we all know, especially if you pay attention and are aware during meditations, how things come and go. So time really is this passing thing that comes through eternity. Eternity doesn't have a beginning or an end, and it doesn't move. It's just the unmoving present. And you sort of, it's one insight into eternity. It's one insight into what we talk time, is that time is actually going through eternity. It's a little hard to wrap your head around it. You can't actually wrap your head around eternity. When the Dominican nuns used to talk about that you would go to heaven or hell for all eternity. Well, we were all worried about going to hell for all eternity. We thought it's a hell of a long time. It's just that eternity is just a really long bunch of time, but it's not really that at all. Eternity is now. And when you sit in presence, with just the mirror of the heart, with in wholehearted awareness, you are that unmovable moment. And then everything's passing in front of you. Just like everything passing in front of a mirror, the mirror's not doing anything. The mirror's just there. And the mirror doesn't hold on to. If you walk in front of a mirror, there's your image, and then you walk past the mirror doesn't hold on to the image, you see. So that idea of the mirror of the heart, which also comes in both Eastern and Western, both Buddhist and Christian terminology, the mirror of the heart, that the heart just is aware. Awareness doesn't move, thinking moves, your thoughts move. So that's time. So let's talk about space. The second word would be here. So we got now, we've got here. And here's talking about space. And we're living in this, what they call the space-time continuum. But there's also an eternal sense, a sacred sense of space. I wrote a poem one time called Point A Living. Now, I was living my life seriously, worried about point B. Most of us do, most of the time. It's this next thing down the line that we're trying to reach. Whether it's couldn't wait to, you know, couldn't wait to graduate from high school, couldn't wait to go to college. There was always a point B, and so you're always tethered to this other point, and you're not quite there, but you're going towards it. Well, point A living is to drop that. And there's always a thought, well, it'll be better when, gee, if I, those are the if onlys. If only I could graduate. If only I could find the woman of my dreams. If only then. And that's always like a kind of point B that we're talking about. John Kabat-Zinn, who started really bringing non-religious people into spiritual practice with the mindfulness out on the East Coast 20 years ago or so. His breakthrough book was called Wherever You Go, There You Are. Because there's always just here. Fez has a great poem about just wherever you are, you're here. So point A living is to just actually be present where you are and don't buy into that idea that you got to go somewhere to wake up. Like you got to go to a retreat or you got to go to the Amazon jungle and, have ayahuasca and have a shaman trip or something that's all well and good, but you're there. You really don't have to go anywhere to wake up. It's here and now are both sacred, the sacred dimension of time and space, you see. So that's now and that's here. Just to be where you are and stop playing the if only game. If only this would happen. If only I could go to this place. If only I got this degree. And then finally this. So now, here, this. What is this? This is really, if you actually can integrate actually living in the now and living right here, then you're putting together time and space. You're integrating it, the sacred dimension of it. And then that would be what they call this or suchness in the term. This means not to-ness. The interesting thing about Christianity, and really one of the sadnesses of formal Christianity, is that that's what Jesus was preaching all the time. This. He was preaching the idea that heaven and earth were not two. They weren't separate. So it was a kind of incarnational spirituality Jesus was, not afraid of um, the body, which is how we got the term, at least in Christianity, the body of Christ, when they give you the way for the body of Christ. And we have other meanings of the body of Christ too, but mainly it was just, when you ate the host, that piece of bread, simple piece of bread, it's totally integrated into your system. It goes to every cell. So this is a kind of incarnational spirituality where a non-duality of matter and spirit. I grew up with the idea that spirit was the thing, God was the thing, and that the body was getting in the way. All these bodily desires, and Buddha had the same teaching, and so he was out in the jungle trying to starve himself for uh, most of the 5 years, with the idea of the ascetics at that time is that if you weaken the body, then the soul would be free, that the body was an impediment. He got through that on his own, and he realized no, it was all he was. There's sculptures of the Buddha. He looks anorexic. You can see every rib in his body, and that was not the way. Then he went to the middle way, which is this way. That's what this means, why we put our hands together in a kind of sacred gesture, because it's matter and spirit, heaven and earth, not true. What got Jesus really put to death, especially by the Jewish hierarchy at the time, is he said things like this. This is probably his most radical statement that explodes your ideas of time and space, you see. He said one time when the guys they're sort of criticizing the way he lives, he says, truly, truly I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Well, just that look, Abraham was the founder of his very religion. And before Abraham was, I am. I mean, I don't know how they made any sense out of it. They just called it blasphemy, and for which he should have been stoned. But they're occupied country. They didn't have any right to put anybody to death. And so he ends up getting the Roman crucifixion. But think of that again. What does he mean when he said, "Truly I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." He's echoing that. He's echoing what Moses heard on the mountain when he asked the burning bush, well, who are you? I can't just go down with these 10 commandments and say I just picked them out of thin air. I got to say who gave them to me. And actually, in Hebrew, it just came back as am, but in translation, it became I am. Told him I am sent you. And he's channeling that because God, whatever you think about God or the Tao or the Buddha nature, whatever, it's beyond time and space. So he's blowing our minds by saying, "Truly I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." Jesus sort of intuited the experience of timeless eternity, and I would suggest my take on it that the true self that people talk about is your own fundamental I amness. Jesus never said, "I'm the only one who is." He never said he was the only Son of God. That got tacked on later in creeds and whatever. I think he was calling everybody to this sense. So, yeah, I want to do a shorter talk today uh, because we have a little extra at the end, a little 3-minute energy session at the end. But here's how Jesus talked about, actually finding your I amness. And it's a good lead into, well, it'll be a good segue into just going into our uh, silent meditation. He said, enter by the narrow gate. For the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to suffering. And those who go through it are many. Enter by the narrow gate. For the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to suffering. And those who go through that gate are many. But But the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to a true life to those, and those who find it are few. But the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to true life, and those who find it are few. Um, you have to take this sort of metaphorically. The gate is narrow and the way is hard. Well, it's hard to actually have a quiet, um, simple meditation practice in a culture like this. And it's actually even in Jesus's culture. They were doing a lot of this and that and all the rituals and whatever, but he was talking about this narrow way, which is also the middle way of the Buddha. The Buddha we know, we always see pictures of him meditated. Jesus was always on the fly in the mix of things, but he was saying that the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to true life. He came to give us and life and to give us life in abundance. We're going to be talking about that in the next couple of what that really means to have true life and life in abundance. Uh, and he says those who find it are few. Uh, you know, probably still true. Probably still true. But he's talking about the way to wake up and the narrow way and the hard thing, the narrow way and the hardest thing to do now in our culture is to do nothing, to just sit and experience, direct experience, to get the acquaintance with what is beyond doing, what is beyond anything. You can call it whatever you want. God, the Tao, Allah, Brahman, call it whatever you want. He was calling people to this narrow way of sitting in silence and just becoming an acquaintance of what's beyond time and space, what's beyond words and concepts, direct experience. And this is one way to do it. It's what we always do in our second section of Heart to Heart. So why don't we just end this talk and get to that?